Chosen one, this message didn't arrive by chance. It was time to reach you in this exact moment. Something unseen has aligned to bring you here, guiding your soul before your mind could question why. You felt the pull, the stir deep inside, and now you stand on the edge of truths they tried to bury. What if I told you that everything they taught you to fear was the very key to your power? They never wanted you to know how much control they lost when your spirit began to wake. You've sensed the shadow of doubt and the weight of destiny pressing on your heart. You've seen the cracks in their world, and they tremble because your awakening shakes the foundations they built. You've come seeking answers, and tonight you will find them. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Stay with me, because by the end of this hour, you will see how your rise was foretold long ago, and how they are already reeling from the moment you reclaim what is yours. The exit was a signal, not a collapse. You may remember it as a dream, or maybe it was one of those drifting moments before sleep when pictures flicker across the mind like thin light through branches. A hallway stretched farther than it should, lined with doors you once tried to keep shut. At the far end, one door pulsed, not loud, not bright, just steady, almost patient. Behind you were voices telling you to turn back, to stay where things were known, to keep playing the role that fed their comfort. Yet somewhere deeper than thought, a question rose that you never spoke aloud. What if the door they fear is the one marked for me? You reached toward it in your heart long before your body packed a bag, left a job, cut a call, or ended an agreement. That inner reach was the first move. They saw the later one, the public exit, but heaven recorded the first. Remember those years when you felt too much? Rooms felt loud even when no one spoke. You picked up moods the way old radio sets pull static from storms. You walked into gatherings smiling, but you always mapped the exits. People told you were dramatic, thin-skinned, disloyal, too private, too intense, not enough this, too much that. You stayed at tables where jokes stung because you thought endurance was love. You gave advice that saved others and went home empty. You sensed lies but swallowed them to keep peace. Nights ended with you staring at a dark ceiling, asking why you cared so much when they cared so little. Psalm 56 verse 8 says, "Every tear is kept, counted, treasured, nothing wasted." If even tears are tracked, what makes you think your turning point went unseen? Here is the turn. None of it was random. The long ache, the restless sleep, the pull to silence, the way your body tensed when you were out of alignment. These were signals strung like lanterns along a hidden road. There has always been architecture under your steps, like Gideon threshing wheat in a winepress, hiding purpose in plain sight while enemies circled. You were being trained in uncommon places, Judges 6, like Elijah who did not find God in the wind or quake or fire, but in a sound so thin it could be missed, 1 Kings 19 verse 12. You were being tuned to subtle truth because loud crowds lie. And yes, the old word speaks again. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43 verse 19. Your leaving was not collapse. It was the lever that lifted the unseen design into view. Then came the small shifts, the ones you almost laughed off. Numbers repeating on clocks when you thought about leaving. Dreams of packing light even when you owned too much. A song from childhood playing in a store on the same day you decided to stop apologizing. Birds gathering on one line outside your window after you prayed for a sign. Pressure behind the sternum that eased only when you told the truth. Deja vu in places you had never visited. Zechariah 4 verse 10 asks, "Who dares despise the day of small things?" Heaven starts in seed size. These were not glitches. They were breadcrumbs. Each one softened the hold of their expectations and strengthened the quiet vote inside you. There came a morning. Maybe you recall the color of the sky, maybe only the relief when your gut went still. Not numb, not cold, just settled. The decision was not shouted. It landed. You answered a message slower. You turned down an invite without guilt. You cleaned a drawer and felt like you cleared a decade. Something in you no longer asked for permission to rest. That stillness is what ancient warriors waited for before battle. In 2 Samuel 5 verse 24, David was told to move only when he heard marching in the tops of the trees, a sound carried by wind. You heard your own wind. That was confirmation. Alignment rarely blows doors off hinges. It rearranges the room until you notice you've been standing by the right door all along. Under all the noise, identity waited. Awakening is less about building a new self and more about brushing dirt off the name carved beneath layers of other people's stories. Hosea 11 verse 3 pictures God teaching a child to walk, holding arms that don't yet hold themselves. That tenderness has followed you through every false start. The truest parts of you, the one who sees patterns, hears subtext, loves deep, recoils from harm, were buried under what they needed you to be. When you stepped out, you were not reinventing. You were remembering. The memory is older than your fears and stronger than their labels. This is where power begins to breathe. The traits they mocked become your instruments. Sensitivity becomes radar. Silence becomes strategy. Boundaries become altars. You start blessing your own discernment instead of apologizing for it. You speak when led, not when pushed. You pray over your rest like it matters because it does. You notice that when you withdraw energy from what drains, systems wobble. Their control relied on your constant plug-in, unplug, and currents reroute. 1 Corinthians 1 verse 27 says the weak things shame the strong. Your quiet refusal is the tremor that unseats false thrones. What they read as collapse is the blast that opens ground for new growth. So here you are, listening, and none of this reached you by accident. They watched as you stepped away, expecting silence. Instead, you sent a shockwave through realms they believed they controlled. When you left, you did more than retreat. You fulfilled a promise written before you knew its words. You obeyed the call to leave what no longer served you, and in that act, you claimed divine design. They counted on your fear, but you chose your faith. Comment signal if you felt the stir of destiny in your own departure. Hold that thought, because next we move into what answers obedience, the movement in the unseen, the help you didn't see but that saw you first. This is only the first spark of what's to come. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community. A private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. When they obey, the unseen realm revolts. It often begins as something you can't explain to anyone without sounding restless. The room feels tilted when nothing in it has moved, conversations leave a film on your skin. Technology glitches only when you try to speak truth, sleep runs shallow, and small plans go sideways for no good reason. You catch yourself holding air in your lungs during calls with certain people and releasing it only after you hang up. A quiet heaviness follows you between places that used to feel easy. Like a low hum behind a wall, there is activity you can't see but you sense it. A pattern of drag, a pressure against forward motion. You wonder if you are the problem. Yet the longer you sit with that hum, the clearer it grows. Something has been leaning on your life from the edges, long before you had language for destiny, long before you called yourself chosen. Secrets are surfacing. You know the emotional weather of resistance because you have lived in it. There were seasons when being in a room with certain people made you shrink your laugh by half. Times when you were praised for your insight in private and dismissed as too intense in public. Moments you told the truth and the story was flipped so fast you doubted your own memory. You learned to edit your joy so others would not feel small. You said yes when tired because no led to drama. You stayed faithful to groups that fed on your energy and left you empty, then wondered why you woke sad for no reason. Shame crept in like fog. Maybe you are too sensitive, maybe you break things, maybe love means absorb and never push back. Isolation grew not from being alone, but from being unseen while standing among many. If this hits deep, it's because the pressure was real. Here is what most are never told. Pushback gathers around promise. In every age, systems resist what they cannot own. Pharaoh ordered the boys drowned because the people multiplied. Exodus 1:1012. Suppression was aimed at future strength. Daniel fasted and prayed, yet an unseen prince delayed the answer sent to him. Daniel 10:1213. Resistance rose precisely because a message was on its way. Wilderness seasons in Scripture are not empty. They are training grounds where purpose is sealed away from meddling hands. So when you look at the strain that wrapped your life, consider that it was not random chaos but an immune response from structures, social, spiritual, even psychological, that recognized your potential before you did. They sensed the frequency of your obedience forming, so they crowded the channel. Look back with kinder eyes and patterns start to outline themselves. Every time you neared a key move, applying, leaving, telling, healing, something odd flared. Sudden illness the week of a decision, a friend turning cold after you confided a calling, paperwork misplaced only in your case, group plans shifting to keep you tied up, emotional storms before interviews, a car problem on the day you meant to visit someone who speaks life, rejection that made no sense, draining jobs that paid just enough to keep you from risking change, love offers that felt urgent but hollow, betrayals repeating like loops in different people wearing different faces. When lights come on in a dark room, dust motes rise. What looked random becomes a map. You were never cursed with bad luck. You were sanded by friction placed where your growth threatened their structure. There is also the layer you felt but could not name. The air itself grew heavy when you prayed certain prayers. Your thoughts scattered when you tried to read certain words. Fatigue hit only when you reached for breakthrough conversations. Like Balaam's donkey that stopped short because an angel blocked the path though Balaam saw nothing. Numbers 22:2231. Parts of your life jammed for reasons beyond eyesight. Ephesians 6 verse 12 reminds us that our wrestling is not against flesh and blood alone. Energies, patterns, and old agreements cling like vines in unseen soil. Some of you felt nights of dense silence, as if watchers ringed the bed. Others noticed that when you decided to fast, every craving roared, or when you set boundaries, old contacts swarmed. These are tells. Light draws response. Your signal drew interference because it was received. How did you carry it? Many of us folded to fit. We people-pleased until our names blurred. We over-explained to keep peace. We made ourselves useful so they would not call us proud. We laughed at our own gifts so no one else would mock them first. Some of us rebelled sideways, missing meetings, ghosting texts, dragging our feet. Tiny acts of resistance that never solved the core. Others shut down spiritually, afraid that any new step would trigger more backlash. It's the David problem. They tried to dress you in Saul's armor, 1 Samuel 17:3839. Heavy, proven, respected, but not cut for you. You learned to move in gear that did not fit and blamed yourself for the clank. None of this means you failed. It means you adapted to survive inside pressure designed to dim you. Something changes the day you connect the pressure to your purpose. Opposition becomes data. When the same personalities bristle every time you speak truth, you have located a fault line. When exhaustion flares only around certain assignments, you have found a siphon. When doors slam but inner peace grows, you are being guided, not blocked. 2 Kings 6:16-17 tells of a servant panicking at surrounding armies until Elisha prayed and his eyes opened to see chariots of fire. Pray that over yourself now. Let me see what stands with me. Notice too how in Exodus 1 verse 12, the more the people were oppressed, the more they multiplied. Resistance was fertilizer. Your voice was never the problem. Their control required your silence. Each time you obeyed the nudge to pull back, speak, rest, pray, or refuse, you sent a coded distress call heaven answered. The unseen realm did not stay neutral. It moved. So let's name it clear. When they obey, the unseen realm revolts. They never believed angels would answer a whisper of your soul. Yet that is exactly what happened. In Ezekiel 1 verse 14, the living creatures flash like bolts of fire, moving where spirit directs. Answers travel faster than schemes. Your choice to obey that inner nudge sent ripples through heavens and earth. Every refusal to bow to their doubt cracked agreements you never meant to sign. Every boundary cut a cord that fed their hold. They thought they held dominion over your fear, but your surrender to truth broke their chains. Comment rebellion if you felt those unseen forces rally to your cause. If you have stories of sudden peace, timely protection, strange provision, or moments when what should have crushed you cleared instead, hold that up in the chat so others know they are not alone. Because now we move into the mystery of delay, the clock that seemed cruel, the waiting that wore you down, and why, in the end, timing itself bows to the signal you sent. And to every soul who's supported with a super thanks, thank you. You are keeping this light alive for others who haven't found it yet. If you feel called to help this mission reach more chosen ones, tap the Super Thanks button below. Your energy supports these messages and helps them travel further. Your voice matters, your belief matters, and your light is felt here. Why delay was actually design. It can happen in one quiet flash. A memory you never filed as important lines up with today and suddenly explains itself. The late train that made you miss the meeting that would have bound you to a path you now know was wrong. The pause before you answered a message that kept you from saying yes out of guilt. The months you called wasted now glow like ink lines under a blacklight. What was random starts to arrange into a pattern that actually holds. Clarity does not always roar in. Sometimes it slides a new lens over the old story and lets you see the threads that were pulling even when you felt stuck. That inner shift, the moment when you realize the waiting years were not empty but engineered, is the sound of the veil thinning. Once that lens drops in, you begin to notice how everything has been talking. Numbers repeat when your spirit leans toward change. Certain phrases follow you across books, podcasts, street signs, receipts. Dreams replay the same room with one detail moved, as if the dream is editing reality frame by frame until you catch on. Silence in prayer carries weight in your chest like geometry, angles of yes, curves of not yet. Time itself feels scored, like sheet music, each rest mark as intentional as the notes. Ecclesiastes says there is a time for every purpose under heaven. Think of that not as cliché but as divine math hidden beneath your schedule. The pauses between beats hold the shape of the song. Inside, the signals grow sharper. Your body speaks faster than thought. Warmth rises when you are near alignment. A tight band forms across your back when you are about to agree to something wrong. Old cravings lose grip without a fight. You sense when to log off, when to speak, when to exit a room even mid-laugh because the energy turned. Boundaries that felt like walls now feel like irrigation channels. Protecting flow, not cutting life off. Psalm 105 verse 19 speaks of Joseph. The word over his life tested him until it came to pass. Waiting did not weaken him. It refined the vision until he could carry it without breaking. You feel that testing in your own pulse now. The longer you held, the clearer your interior compass became. As the interior steadies, the exterior rearranges to match. People who fed on your uncertainty grow restless when you stop explaining yourself. Invitations thin in places where you used to overgive. In their absence, the right doors start to unlock. A role you chased for years falls through, and in the same week an unexpected path opens that fits the shape of who you are becoming. Conversations show up at precise hours. Someone mentions a city, and 2 days later a job there appears. You consider study, and a scholarship email lands. Galatians verse 4 speaks of the fullness of time. That moment when conditions converge and heaven releases what has been held. You are living through convergences now. Delay was stacking alignment pieces where you could not see them until the board turned. Then comes the strange echo of memory, like hearing a song you swear you knew before you were born. Childhood scenes return with new meaning. The tree you sat under alone was where you first learned to hear beyond noise. The long drives where you counted mile markers trained you to read signs. The season you thought God was absent was a Deuteronomy 8 verse 2 wilderness. Remember, it says, how the journey humbled and proved you to show what was in your heart. Ancient parts of you wake. A dream you had at 13, the one with the lantern, the bridge, the voice telling you not yet, steps forward now as instruction. Nothing wasted. Memory is revelation on delay. With the veil lifting, destiny stops being a foggy someday and starts reading like an address you can actually walk toward. You are not begging the future to form. You are retrieving what was already written. Esther heard. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther 4 verse 14. That line is not about royalty. It is about readiness intersecting with need. The world is full of needs right now that match the shape of what you have carried in silence. Stop asking for permission from those who profit when you stall. The calendar that scared you is now a canvas. The date you feared missing was never yours. What is yours is the call rising from within, meeting its hour. Reclamation starts in the small brave moves. You give your own timeline back to the one who wrote it and take your fear off their clocks. You release the panic that you are late and step into stewardship of seasons. James 5 verse 7 says the farmer waits for early and latter rains. He does not dig up the seed every day to check it. Trusting germination is an act of spiritual authority. You begin to speak like someone who knows growth happens underground first. You forgive the years they called delay because you see how those years forge discernment, resilience, and language you now carry for others. Micah 7 verse 7. I will watch in hope. My God will hear me. Waiting became your watchtower. So here is the revelation drawn into a single line. They used waiting as a weapon, hoping you'd give up. But every moment you stood firm, you sharpened your spirit. In Habakkuk 2 verse 3 we're told the vision waits for its time. It will not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, it will speak. Your patience was a forge, shaping your destiny in the fire of divine timing. They counted on your doubt in the silence, but that stillness was your secret training ground. Comment patience if you've learned to trust the wait, and share a dream, memory, delay, or strange timing story that later proved guided. Your testimony helps other chosen ones decode their own pauses. Hold that space, because next we step into what happens when you finally move. How walking away becomes activation, how absence becomes trumpet, how the realm answers a single obedient step. The unveiling has begun. The next wave is already building. Walking into the storm as divine activation. There comes a night when the road splits and even silence demands an answer. You stand in that thin place between the life that kept you tame and the call that will not stop tapping from the other side. The mirror in front of you is not glass. It is time, and it is asking one question that burns through every excuse. Will you keep carrying what kept them comfortable, or will you cross into what was written with your name on it? Crossroads rarely come with fireworks. They show up as a text you do not send, a contract you decline, a suitcase you finally zip, a prayer whispered in a car park when no one is watching. You know this moment because your spirit leans forward even while your knees shake. Delay is behind you. Decision is here. Passivity is also a choice, but it is the choice that hands them your crown. Step, and the atmosphere changes. Maybe you did not notice how much of yourself you traded away one small compromise at a time. Hours handed to work that drained you, laughs given to rooms that mocked what mattered, ideas watered down so they would not feel threatened by your range. Your silence padded their comfort. Your overwork fed their platform. Your body carried meetings, favors, late-night rescues, while your own purpose waited outside like a friend left in the rain. Do not call those years failure. Call them training. David's field work with lion and bear rehearsed the swing that later dropped Goliath. 1 Samuel 17:3437. Joel 2 verse 25 speaks of years the locust ate being restored. Recovery begins when you call what was yours back to your center. Say it out loud if you have to. I call back my time, my energy, my vision, my voice, my peace. Not from people to punish them, but from agreements that never had heaven's signature. Take inventory, gather fragments, rebuild throne room within. Consider what they labeled weakness, hyper-awareness, sight, quick tears, open flow, reluctance to lie, covenant reflex, the way you track atmospheres, hear subtext, sense the turn in a story before words catch up. That is advanced gear issued for this hour. Proverbs 20 verse 27 says the spirit of a person is the lamp of the Lord searching all the inward parts. You are a lit instrument, scanning ground others miss. Paul told Timothy to stir up the gift, to fan the flame placed in him. 2 Timothy 1 verse 6. Embers are present even when buried. Think of your sensitivities as keys on a ring, each cut to an unseen lock. Compassion opens hardened hearts, discernment disarms traps, memory recovers lost code, holy anger melts apathy, steadiness stabilizes storms. Isaiah 62 verse 3 says you will be a crown in the hand of the Lord. Crowns are shaped points. What poked them was proof of design. Watch what happens when you move as if the path is already laid. Clouds do not paint roads in the sky until wind drives them. Guidance works the same. Take one faithful step and the next marker appears. In Exodus 13 verse 21, a pillar of cloud and fire led in motion, not on parchment. 2 Chronicles 20 verse 17 holds a strange command. stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Yet they still had to show up on the field. Some days the order is move, some days it is stand. Both are action when directed. Send the email, release the project, rest when the signal drops, relocate when the tug refuses to fade after testing. If a door slams, record the data and pivot. Resistance redirects. Mark 4 verse 39 shows a storm stilled by one word. Speak peace over the wind around you and keep walking. Maps unfold to movers. Zoom the lens wider and you will see lights blinking in other cities, other nations, other timelines. People waking with the same ache to leave hollow systems and build true ones. These are not random sympathies. They are converging tribes. Malachi 3 verse 16 pictures those who feared the Lord speaking with one another. A scroll of remembrance was written in heaven. Conversation creates record. 1 Peter 2 verse 5 calls us living stones being built together. Solo brilliance was never the endgame. You will know your alignment, people, because your spirit expands, not shrinks, in their presence, and because truth costs them too. Stop dimming to slip back into rooms collapsing under their own pretending. Let collapse finish. Stand where resonance gathers and watch how fast assignments weave across distance. So now take command of what flows through you. This is not ego, it is stewardship. Set watches over dawn and dusk. What you allow to greet and close your day reprograms your field. Bless your sleep, speak life over food, work, words, and the devices that carry them. Seal old leaks, unfinished promises, open grudges, vague ties, because energy drains through unclosed loops. The priestly blessing in Numbers 6 did more than sound poetic. It placed a name as shield over a people. Ephesians 6 speaks of armor. Put language around boundaries and wear them daily, like the widow's oil that poured while there were vessels. 2 Kings 4:16. Your supply follows structure. Name what enters, what leaves, what stays. Ceremony matters because power respects order. Hear this as the charge rising over you. Everything you have felt, feared, seen, and survived has led here. You did not weather storms for scenery. You crossed them to gain authority in weather. Job 38 verse 1 says the Lord answered out of the whirlwind. Revelation rides storms. Psalm 29 speaks of a voice that strips forests yet blesses with peace. You carry echo of that voice when you speak aligned. They believed your absence would be your downfall. Instead, it was your coronation. In Revelation 3 verse 21, the promise stands, to the one who conquers, a seat beside the one who overcame. As you walked into the storm they unleashed, you claimed that throne. Every step forward was a declaration that no force on earth or beyond could stop your rise. They saw chaos. You saw destiny. Let that settle. Throne claimed in motion, not after applause. This is not a message. It is a summons to embodiment. Walk in what you now know. Speak from the throne you reclaimed. Set your hand to the work that matches your design and watch provision track obedience like shadow tracks light. History shifts when chosen souls act, not when they only agree. Comment throne if you feel the power of that promise, and add a dream, memory, challenge, or inner knowing that marked your own coronation moment. Your story strengthens others who are crossing now. Stay with this flow because next we enter expansion, where everything you reclaimed becomes movement for many, where private awakening turns public, and where they finally see the force they could not contain. I keep seeing the same image when I pray about where you are right now. A wide field at night, no moon, only scattered embers hiding under ash. Wind moves once and small reds wake. Wind moves twice and lines of heat begin to link. Wind moves a third time and the whole ground lifts in light you can see from miles away. You are not alone. You are not late. You are the spark that set the heavens on fire. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video, and comment I am chosen to let this message anchor in your soul. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thank you to all supporting members. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Remember, They thought they could stop you, but you were never theirs to hold.